Adam Lee stood by the window of his luxurious apartment, his eyes fixed on the bustling streets of New York. The scene below seemed to never sleep, a city in constant motion, full of energy and excitement. But in this room, where the light from the sparkling lamps fell on the polished wooden floor, Adam felt more lost than ever. He had it all: money, fame, and power. However, in the perfect world he had built, there was one thing that was always missing: love. This year, Adam was 45 years old. When he was young, he had strived to rise in his career. He founded his own technology company and became a self-made millionaire. His tireless efforts had brought him everything he had ever wanted: big projects, a luxurious villa in this city, and meetings with famous partners. But when Adam looked in the mirror, he couldn't deny that he felt empty. Every night, Adam kept coming back to the same unanswerable question: did I miss something important? The only thing he couldn't forget was Sophie, the woman he loved more than anything. They had made plans together, dreamed of a happy family. But at that time, when his company was starting to grow strongly, when opportunities kept coming at a dizzying pace, Adam decided to give her up. He thought his career would bring him everything he needed, and that Sophie and her family would be a burden, keeping him from flying higher. "I need more than you can give me," Adam wrote on the small note he left on the table. Those cold words cut off all communication between them. Sophie cried, but Adam believed that it was the right choice. But now, when everything had changed, when his company had become a huge success, Adam felt a void in his heart that money and power could not fill. He still remembered the moments with Sophie, when they had built dreams together, planned a future together. Those memories were now like wounds that could not heal. Adam put down his cup of coffee on the table, sat there for a while in a daze. Even though everything was fine, even though he could have everything he wanted, he still lacked the most important thing: family. And in his mind, there was always an image engraved: Sophie, the girl who had been the light of his life. He wondered if she still loved him, and if it was possible to come back. Adam was filled with regret, but he knew that it was too late to fix it. He had lost her and the dreams they had built together. The feeling of loneliness gradually overwhelmed him, and everything in his life now seemed like a waste, surrounded by success, but with no one to share it with. It was in those moments that Adam began to realize something. There were things more important than anything he could achieve in his work. And the most important thing in his life had always been love, was family. He had ignored it for too long, and now that feeling returned, stronger than ever. Adam stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the street. The city was moving, but inside him, there was an emptiness that could not be dispelled. Is there still a chance for me? He wondered, looking out into the darkness of New York, full of hope, but also full of anxiety. One evening, when the bright lights were reflecting through the glass windows, Adam decided to go out. He needed a change of scenery after a long day at work, and today he had an appointment with an important partner at a fancy restaurant in Manhattan. The elegant atmosphere of the restaurant, with its dim lights and the cheerful laughter of the customers, could not erase the feeling of loneliness that Adam was carrying in his heart. As he walked through the family area, his eyes accidentally stopped. A familiar figure in the crowd made him stop. It was Sophie. She was sitting with two children, eating dinner in a cozy atmosphere, completely opposite to the coldness in Adam's soul. Sophie was still the same as ever, graceful and beautiful, but there was one obvious difference: she was not sitting alone. The two children sat next to her, talking and laughing happily. Their laughter echoed in Adam's ears like a blow to his heart. Adam stood still, a lump rising in his throat. He couldn't believe his eyes. Those children, they had bright eyes, the eyes that Adam saw in the mirror every day. Could they be his children? He had no idea they existed. Time had passed, and during the years he had been away, how had these children grown? Adam's heart beat faster, each beat echoing like a bell, bringing back the past he had tried to forget. He stood still, his eyes unable to take their eyes off Sophie and the two children. They didn't see him. But the strange expression in Sophie's eyes made Adam's heart ache. 15 years had passed since he left. Would she still look at him the same way? Would there still be some of the love they once had? After a few seconds of silence, Adam decided to step closer. He couldn't miss this opportunity. He had to be sure. He had to face the truth, no matter how painful it was. When Adam walked to the table, Sophie recognized him immediately. She raised her head, her eyes unable to hide the surprise and pain. A few seconds of silence passed. The space seemed to stop. Everything around seemed to blend together, leaving only these two people, facing each other after so many years apart. Sophie. Adam uttered, but the words were stuck in his throat, as if he didn't know what to say. Sophie's look made him unable to continue his sentence. Old emotions rushed back, but they were like wounds that had never healed. Sophie didn't answer immediately. She just looked at him, her eyes full of hurt. Finally, she spoke, her voice cold. Adam, don't you know what you're doing? After all these years, you showed up like this, without a word of explanation. Adam felt his heart tighten. He wanted to say something to explain, but he couldn't. How could he explain why he had left her in this family? How could he justify his actions when he saw her and these children? I don't know about them, Sophie. I don't know, Adam said, his voice trailing off, as if he were searching for an excuse for himself, even though he knew it wouldn't erase the truth. Sophie was silent, saying nothing. She just looked at him, her eyes hard and cold. She was no longer the hopeful young girl Adam had known. She had been through so much, and now his presence only reminded her of the pain of the past. Finally, Sophie said, her voice full of bitterness, "These are Lucas and Lily, our children." She gestured to the two children, each absorbed in their meal, seemingly oblivious to the tension between the two adults. "They don't need you, and I don't need you anymore." Sophie's words hit Adam like a hammer. He looked into the eyes of the two children, and in that moment, he realized that he had lost an important part of his life. These children, his son and daughter, had grown up without him. They knew nothing about him, and he knew nothing about them. Adam felt like a complete stranger in his own family. What he had dreamed of was now a pile of rubble. He stood still, not knowing what to do, what to say, when he saw the two children, the children he had left behind. Adam turned and walked out of the restaurant. It was as if a storm had swept away everything inside him, but the only thing he could feel was emptiness. What he had sacrificed, what he thought was necessary to achieve success, now had no meaning. He had lost his family, he had lost his love, and now these children might never accept him. Adam's heart was heavy, but something deep inside him began to flicker, a faint hope that maybe he would have a chance to make amends. However small, Adam walked out of the restaurant, not knowing where he was going, only that he needed to escape the heavy atmosphere. Images of Sophie and the children kept replaying in his mind. Sophie's words still echoed in his ears, like knives cutting into his heart. "They don't need you, and I don't need you anymore." Those words repeated over and over, piercing the hard shell he had built up for so long. Only now did Adam realize that his ambition had taken too much away, and that family, real family, was the most precious thing he had ever had. But now, Sophie had moved on with the children, and he was alone. Adam couldn't go back right away. He needed time to think, to understand what had just happened. He had thought he could go back and everything would be fine, but it wasn't like that. Sophie was no longer the weak woman he could influence. She was strong, independent, and there was no room for easy forgiveness. That night, Adam couldn't sleep. The scene in the restaurant kept playing in his mind. Sophie looked at him, not with the same loving eyes as before, but with anger and pain. The children, Lucas and Lily, had also grown up in a world without him. How could he make amends for those mistakes? The next morning, Adam decided to call Sophie. He knew that only she could give him the answers to the questions he couldn't answer himself. After a long while, Sophie finally picked up. Her voice was low and cold. "Why are you calling, Adam? Is there anything else you want to say?" Adam swallowed, the feeling of choking up rising in his heart again. He didn't know what to say, only that he needed to do something to not lose this opportunity. "Sophie, I can't change the past, but I want to make amends. I was wrong, so wrong. I didn't know what I was leaving behind when I left," Adam said, his voice cracking with regret. There was a long silence. Sophie said nothing, only a sigh from the other end of the line. "Don't you know, Adam?" Her voice softened, but the tension remained. "You left without a word. You abandoned me. You abandoned our family. You think a career can replace love?" Adam couldn't answer. He only knew that he couldn't justify his actions. Too many years had passed, and what he had left behind could not be easily recovered. "I raised the children alone, Adam. I struggled without you," Sophie continued, her voice starting to crack. "The nights I woke up, when the kids cried, when I had to do everything to take care of them. Do you know?" Adam felt like he was being pushed into a dark corner. He had no answers to Sophie's questions. Those years he had lived blindly, only focusing on work without thinking about his family, without thinking about the people he had left behind. "Sophie," Adam said, his voice trembling, "I don't know what you've been through. I'm sorry. I just want a chance to start over, to be a father to the kids, and to be with you again. But I understand if you don't want to." Sophie was silent, and this time Adam sensed that she didn't want to say anything more. She was not the woman he had once been that he could easily change. She was much stronger. "Adam, I don't know if you're serious. I don't know if you can stay or leave again. You've been gone for so long." Sophie paused, then continued, "But if you want, you can see the kids. But you have to understand, they don't know who you are. You're not the father they expected." Adam felt his heart constrict. The kids, Lucas and Lily, were the ones he'd missed, but now they didn't need him. Sophie was right. He'd missed everything, and now he had to face the cost of the choices he'd made. "I understand, Sophie. Thank you for giving me this chance. I won't let you down," Adam said, his voice filled with determination. He knew things couldn't change in a day, but he would do his best to make amends. After the call with Sophie, Adam felt a strange feeling rising in his heart. A faint hope began to grow inside him, but also accompanied by the fear that things would never change. He knew he had done wrong. But could he repair the damage he had caused? Would Sophie accept him? And would the children, Lucas and Lily, be strong enough to accept a father they had never known? Adam knew that he could not prove his change with words alone. He could not convince Sophie with simple apologies. It would take time and patience. He needed to prove that he truly wanted to start over, not only for himself, but also for the children. The next day, Adam went to work at the office, but his mind could not focus on work as before. He kept thinking about what Sophie had said, about the emotions she had gone through during the years he had been absent. Although his career success had made him proud, he now realized that it was not all there was. Feelings of emptiness and regret haunted him, leaving him unsettled. Determined to mend his relationship with his family, Adam spent time finding out what had happened in Sophie's life over the past 15 years. He visited the spots she had cherished, where they had built memories together. Those places were now only traces of the past, but they made Adam feel his mistakes more clearly than ever. One afternoon, while Adam was walking in the park near his house, he received a call from Sophie. She said that Lucas and Lily wanted to meet him, but only if he was serious and wanted to be involved in their lives. These words were a ray of hope in the darkness, yet also a challenge Adam had to overcome. When Adam arrived at the park where Sophie had arranged to meet him, he saw Lucas and Lily playing together. They both looked shy when they saw him, but the curiosity in their eyes sparked a faint hope in Adam. Even though they didn't say it, he could sense the hurt in them, the wariness in facing the father they had never known. Lucas and Lily were twins, the same age, and both had Adam's bright eyes, but neither of them was friendly at first. Little Lucas stood to one side, his eyes suspicious, and Lily, with her curious eyes, stood near her mother, waiting for the next move of the father she had never known. "Hello, children," Adam said, his voice soft, trying to create a comfortable atmosphere. "I'm Adam, your father." Lily looked at him for a long time and then said softly, "Are you our father?" Adam nodded, feeling choked up again. "Yes. I know I've missed out on a lot, but I want to start over. I want to understand you, to be your friends." Lucas couldn't help but speak up, his voice still filled with doubt. "How did things turn out like this? Do you think we can trust you?" Adam looked straight into Lucas's eyes, unable to avoid the question. He knew there was no simple answer. "I can't change the past, Lucas," Adam said, his voice quiet but determined. "But I will do everything I can to let you know that I'm here. Even if you don't need me now, please give me a chance. I promise I won't waste it again." Lily looked at him, her eyes no longer filled with doubt like before. She didn't say anything, but the curiosity in those eyes made Adam feel a little bit of calm, a small glimmer of hope. A week had passed since the park meeting, and Adam still couldn't forget Lucas's cold stares, the boy's suspicious questions, and Lily's silence. Feeling like a stranger in his own family was unpleasant, but at least he had an opportunity to approach them. The door, though narrow, seemed to have opened. Adam knew that he couldn't force his children to accept him immediately. This relationship needed time to develop, step by step, bit by bit. He couldn't go back and do it all over again in one day, but he was willing to make the long-term effort. One morning, as Adam sat in his office, he received a text message from Sophie. She wanted to see him. He didn't know what it was, but it could at least be a sign that Sophie was ready for a conversation, and maybe the children too. He didn't think long, just quickly agreed and arranged a time. That afternoon, they met at a quiet coffee shop. Sophie arrived first, sitting in the corner of the room, her eyes looking out the window, as if thinking about something very far away. Adam could feel the tension in the air, but he didn't dare break the silence right away. He just sat down and waited, knowing that today would be no ordinary meeting. "Sophie," Adam began, his voice soft but firm, "thank you for taking the time to meet me. I know things can't change quickly, but I want to keep trying. I want to be friends with the kids." Sophie didn't rush to answer. She looked at him, her eyes still filled with doubt, but also something softer than the last time they met. "Lucas and Lily didn't accept you that easily. Neither did I. You have to understand that things can't be that simple," Sophie said, her voice low as if weighing each word. "I understand. But if you give me a chance, Sophie, I won't give up. I'll do everything I can to prove that I can start over, not just for you, but for the kids," Adam said, his voice full of determination. Sophie was silent for a long moment, her eyes following her thoughts. Finally, she sighed and looked straight into Adam's eyes. "I know you've changed, Adam, and I know you're trying, but coming back isn't easy. I need time. The kids do too." Adam nodded, understanding that this was a positive sign. Sophie wasn't rejecting him anymore, at least not verbally. She might still have doubts, but she hadn't completely closed the door. "Sophie, I don't expect things to change right away, but if there's anything I can do for the kids, I'll do it all. I've let so much go, and now I want to start over," Adam said, this time with a sincerity he couldn't hide. After a while, Sophie said softly, "All right, you can spend time with the kids again, but I can't promise anything. Both you and I need to learn to trust again." Adam felt a sense of relief in his heart. This was a second chance, and he wasn't going to let it slip away. "Thank you, Sophie. I won't let you down." The next day, Adam went to the park to see Lucas and Lily again. He wasn't sure if the kids would remember him, if they would care about his efforts to be a part of their lives, but he knew that he could only start small. This time, Lucas and Lily weren't as distant as they had been before. Lucas still looked at him with suspicion, but it was no longer as cold as before. Lily seemed more curious, still shy, but the hesitation in her eyes seemed to have lessened. Adam started the conversation with a gentle, unhurried question. "Do you guys like sports? I remember I used to love playing soccer. Would you like to try?" Lily, though still a little hesitant, began to smile. "I like playing soccer, but I've never played anyone as good as that," she said. Lucas looked at his sister, then back at Adam, saying nothing but finally nodding. "I'll try," Lucas said, his voice a little softer. Adam couldn't quite put into words how he felt in that moment. It wasn't perfect, but it was a small step forward. He didn't need his kids to love him right away, but at least they were starting to give him a chance to prove that he wanted to be a part of their lives. The following weeks were a series of Adam's relentless efforts to integrate into his children's lives. Each time he met the children, he tried to be patient and gentle, avoiding any sense of rushing or forcing. He understood that change could not come immediately, and everything needed time. One morning, when Adam went to pick up Lucas and Lily from school, he noticed a slight change in their attitudes. Although Lucas still kept a cold exterior, he began to open up. Lily, who had always been shy, now started talking to him more. Adam knew this was a sign he was getting closer to his children. That day, Adam took the children to a large park in the city. The three of them played soccer, something Adam had previously enjoyed. Although Lucas didn't seem interested at first, after a few fights for the ball and a random goal from Lily, both children started laughing happily, creating the warm atmosphere Adam had hoped for. While playing, Lucas looked at Adam curiously, then suddenly spoke up. "Do you often play soccer? I remember Mom saying you were a good player when you were young." Adam smiled, a feeling of joy spreading in his heart. "Yes, I really liked playing soccer when I was young, but I'm not as good as you," he said sincerely, trying to create a more comfortable atmosphere. Lily, seeing this, smiled brightly. "I like soccer too, but I'm not good at it yet," she added shyly. "I'll probably need you to teach me." Adam felt his heart lighten. It had been a long time since he experienced such pure joy through a simple game. This made him realize that the relationship with the children was gradually developing in a positive direction, although there was still a long way to go. Although the children were starting to open up to Adam, there was still a worry in his heart. He knew that just happy moments were not enough to change everything. This relationship needed to be built firmly, with sincerity and perseverance in every action. Adam could not rely on short moments and hope that everything would automatically return to the way it was. One weekend, Adam went to see Sophie. She agreed to meet him after a long period of silence. The two met at a quiet cafe where they could talk without being disturbed. Sophie realized that Adam was not only trying to bond with the children, but also to rebuild their relationship. "Sophie, you can feel the change in the children, right?" Adam began, his voice low, showing his worry. "I know things won't be the same again right away, but I won't give up. I want you to see the sincerity in my efforts." Sophie looked at him, her eyes still filled with doubt, but a little softer than before. "I see your efforts, Adam, but I also know that the children won't accept you immediately. They're still too hurt, and neither am I. Do you think a few meetings will change everything? I know you don't trust me easily, Sophie. I don't expect immediate change," Adam said, his eyes sincere. "But I won't give up. I'll always be here for the children, for you." Sophie was silent for a moment, then looked straight into Adam's eyes. "I've been gone for too long, but you can't deny that I'm changing, and the children are starting to feel it too." Adam gave a small smile. "I just hope that one day they'll call me Dad." The following weekend, Adam received a surprise invitation from Lucas. He asked Adam to take him and Lily to a school sports performance. It was the first time Lucas had ever invited him to participate in one of his activities, and Adam was deeply moved. At the performance, Adam sat next to Sophie, the first time in years that they had sat together without feeling nervous. They both watched their children compete in a sports competition. Adam realized that although the past could not be changed, at least he could be a part of the present and future. After the competition ended, Lucas and Lily ran up with bright smiles. "Dad, did I play well?" Lucas asked. Although it was still a bit strange to call Adam Dad, it was a big step forward. Adam felt joy and happiness spread through his heart. Even though it was just a simple question, to him it was a strong sign that his children had begun to accept him. When Adam returned home that evening, he felt a sense of relief. Despite the challenges ahead, he knew that his relationship with his children had improved. Sophie also noticed a change in Adam and began to see him in a different light. These were small signs, but to Adam, they gave him great hope for a new future for his family. Adam felt the change spreading through the family. Although each step was challenging, he knew that he was getting closer to his goal. The relationship with the children had gradually become more natural, and the meetings between him and Sophie were no longer as tense as before. Their conversations now began to feel more intimate, and gentle moments between the two of them also started to appear. One afternoon, after finishing work, Adam went to the park to meet Sophie. He knew that today would be an important meeting, as the feelings between them were starting to change. He didn't expect everything to return to normal immediately, but at least he had taken an important step. He was back in the family's life. Sophie had arrived first, sitting on a bench near the lake, her eyes looking far away, as if thinking about something important. As Adam approached, she turned back, her eyes no longer filled with suspicion, but with a hint of caution and a touch of softness. Adam, Sophie began, her voice low, but not as cold as before. I've seen what you've done. I've seen the effort you've put in, and I can't deny that you're trying very hard. Not just for the kids, but for me. Adam sat down next to her, his eyes fixed on her. I know that you've changed the way you look at me, Sophie, and I've seen the change in the kids too. But I want you to understand that this is a long process, and you can't force things to happen overnight. Sophie looked at him, a small smile on her lips. I know, I see the sincerity in your actions. You can't do it all over again in one day, but I also realize that you've come back and want to make things right. She paused, then continued. I've seen you change, and that's important to me. Adam felt a sense of relief. Sophie was no longer denying his efforts. Even though she didn't say it outright, he could sense that she was slowly opening up, no longer closing the door to him. It was a big step, and he knew he had to be patient throughout the process. I just want the kids to know that I'm here, ready for anything, Adam said, his voice full of sincerity. No matter how hard it gets, I won't give up. Sophie smiled softly. You've given us a reason to believe in change, Adam, and that's the first step. In the days that followed, Adam worked hard to build a relationship with his children. He participated in Lucas and Lily's activities, from taking them to school to attending extracurricular activities with them. Although the children remained distant and reluctant to open up, Adam knew he was slowly building trust. One Saturday afternoon, while Adam was playing soccer with the children in the park, Lucas suddenly spoke up. You know, I thought you wouldn't come back, but now I feel like maybe you'll be a part of our lives. Lucas's voice was hesitant, but the change in him was noticeable. Adam paused, looking at Lucas, his eyes filled with emotion. I'll always be here, Lucas. It might take time, but I'll never leave you again. Lily ran up and hugged Adam. Thank you, Dad, she said. Although her words sounded awkward, Adam could feel the sincerity in them. One evening, as Adam and Sophie sat together in a quiet cafe, Sophie looked at him thoughtfully. You've done so much to make a difference in the children. I feel a change in my perspective. I can't deny that you're back, and this time you really want to start over. Adam felt emotional. Thank you, Sophie. I didn't expect things to change immediately, but I will never give up. Sophie took his hand, her eyes looking deeply into his. You know, I still have wounds, but I also realize that love is not just about perfection. It's about patience, about constant effort, and you showed me that. Adam said nothing, just held Sophie's hand tightly, feeling the closeness, the harmony that he had lost for so long. He knew that the journey ahead was still long, but with these small steps, he felt that he was no longer alone. He had found his family again, and more importantly, he had found love again. As Adam and Sophie left the cafe and stepped outside into the chilly evening air, they knew that the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but at least they were starting over. Every step they took was the start of a new chapter, where love and patience were the keys to healing all wounds. Adam knew that, while things might not be perfect right away, he would never give up again. Autumn had arrived, and in the cool air of the long afternoons, Adam felt a distinct change in his life. His tireless efforts were finally beginning to bear fruit. His relationship with Sophie and the children was gradually becoming stronger, more stable. But Adam knew that this was only the beginning. One Sunday morning, the whole family decided to go for a picnic together. Sophie, Lucas, Lily, and Adam sat on a blanket spread out on the grass by the quiet lake. The children's laughter echoed in the vast space. Everything was not perfect, but they were precious moments that Adam had missed for the past 15 years. Adam sat looking at Sophie, feeling warm inside. Although she kept a certain distance, the change in her eyes when looking at him was enough to make him feel like he had come home. He couldn't deny that the old wounds were still there, but they were slowly healing. More importantly, they had found a way to live with each other with genuine feelings. I feel like things are changing, Adam said, looking at Sophie. Finally, maybe we found a way to rebuild. Sophie looked at him, a small smile on her lips. I know, Adam, but the important thing is that you're here and the kids are starting to trust you. Lucas and Lily were playing nearby, joking around, completely oblivious to the adults. Adam looked at the two children, feeling the connection, he had hoped for. Lucas, though still cautious, was starting to share more with Adam. Lily, always cheerful, was growing closer to the father she never knew. Day by day, Adam continued to build important moments with his children. Despite the challenges ahead, he felt he had built a solid foundation for their family relationship. One evening, Lucas suddenly said, "Dad, I like the way we do things together. It doesn't feel like before." Adam was surprised by the words, but felt a change in himself and his children. A part of him was coming back, and a part of the family was truly reborn. When the family returned home, Adam no longer felt lonely. He had found love, patience, and precious moments that he missed. From here, Adam's family had entered a new chapter where sincere efforts and love were a solid foundation for their future. The road ahead wasn't easy, but Adam knew he was no longer walking alone.